So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know a lot of people have been here over the past few weeks for the various other sessions. I'm also just going to pin myself. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to work out how to do the make sure this recording is going to look the best. But anyway, okay. So we are doing things a little bit differently today. Obviously, for those of you who joined us previously, we've been doing kind of very specific design workshops for you to work out how to actually bridge that gap from the in-game activation to the real world. So looking at things like how to use the existing themes and gameplay and mechanics in your game to tell an environmental story, thinking about behavioral psychology and how we can use it to empower people to take action for the climate in the real world, and finally, actually how we take that step in terms of what are the concrete ways that we can bring people into the kind of fold, as it were, and get them to take action in the real world. So those three videos are available to watch on our YouTube right now. So if you haven't already seen them and you're struggling with your kind of with your activation at the moment, then they're really, really, really useful to get a bit of insight into actually how you answer that big question of that gap. So today we are actually going to give you the opportunity to hear from previous year's participants in the Green Game Jam. So these are the same studios that are joining this year, but they are different game teams. So these are people who you might not necessarily see around in the other sessions or in the in-person activities that we have going on for Earth Week. So this is just your opportunity to kind of talk to them and ask them some questions. But it is important to caveat that this year is the first time we've ever asked participants to actually incorporate a real world action into their activations. So some of these examples might not quite be the same as the brief we have this year, but where possible, we have tried to include a real world element or a focus on one of the themes of food waste and restoration. So it's important to think of this less as a how-to guide and us telling you just copy what they did in previous years, and more of a way of like sparking your imagination and thinking, how can we go that one step further? So the three panelists that we have for you today is Sheila Ndugu. She currently works in product marketing on Supercell's Brawl Stars, and during the 2022 Green Game Jam, she was a member of the marketing and creative production team for Heyday. Our next panelist is Ioannis Lefkaditis, and he's the general manager for Transformers Earth Wars, and they participated in the Green Game Jam in 2021. That's a Space 8 game. And then Žveplan is the creative director, and Urška Leskovar is the lead product manager of My Talking Angela 2, and they joined the jam in 2023. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hand over to the participants to actually take you through the activation, because I think we need to kind of understand what it was that they did for us to talk through it a little bit in more depth. So Sheila, I'm going to hand over to you just to take everybody through your activation.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila, and I am product marketing for Brawl Stars here at Supercell. However, 2 years ago, I was still doing marketing for Heyday. So we had this birthday celebration, which I'll kind of take you through. So in 2022, it was 10 years of Heyday existing. And so we decided to do like a big birthday party in game, and it was a month-long celebration. We kind of thought like to bring something bigger that players maybe have never imagined. So we kind of had a time capsule that we said that we buried in 2012 when the game was launched. So we broke ground on the first farm in Heyday and buried this time capsule. And for the month, the players would be opening 10 items from this capsule. So we there were mystery capsules, and throughout the month, we would be revealing all of them. And it was actually in the second capsule that we decided to put in this Green Game Jam participation event. So it was something that we called a measuring tape. And basically, because we were so actually the theme of the birthday party was a birthday fair. So a country fair that players are kind of attending in game. So one thing that happens at country fairs is like measuring the biggest, healthiest vegetables that the town has ever seen. And so we kind of put this measuring tape in there, and we use this event, this in-game event, to put in our I guess not necessarily like a real world action, but to teach players about a cause that we thought would fit perfectly with what the game is all about. So this was a 5-day event, and we wanted to do something that the community in the past have always shown interest in charity and giving back. For example, in 2020, we did an activation where we protected 1 million trees, and we got such great feedback from our community. So we were like, let's do this again. So for the 10th one, we thought, what if we did something around farming? So as if you don't know, Heyday is like a simulation game of farming. So you go through the process of planting and harvesting crops on a daily basis. So a cause tied to farming just felt like the right fit. So together with our CSR team, who we call our Give Back team, we kind of looked through some organizations that, you know, were in line with our values and had a good cause behind them. And we found Rodale Institute. So we kind of discussed with them, and we learned a lot about regenerative farming and agriculture and soil health and, you know, farming practices that farmers are trying to go through to create healthy food. And so we thought that one part of like the regenerative farming process is farmers. So we kind of coined this like like Heyday Farmers for Real Life Farmers event. And yeah, so then we coined this slogan for healthy soil means healthy food, which means healthy people. And so for the in-game activation, we asked our players to deliver as many truck orders as they can. And this is already like an in-game system, event system that already existed. So we kind of just repurposed this, and we just themed it around this Farmers for Farmers event. And we asked them to fill 150 million truck orders, so a community goal. And if they reach the goal, Heyday promised to make a donation to the Rodale Institute to help real-life farmers learn and create healthier soil to grow healthier food. And then in the real world, we made this monetary donation, and we didn't really we didn't tell players that, if the players didn't reach it, we were still going to donate. So it wasn't like a completely capped, or if they didn't reach it, we wouldn't give. Whether or not they reached the goal, we would still give to the Rodale Institute. And what the monetary donation did is to help with like their research and development and farmer tuition to go to that institute to learn about soil health and regenerative farming, as well as like educating locals about the importance of supporting local farmers. Through this, we got lots of positive sentiment from our community. We had 2 million total impressions reached regarding specifically this Farmers for Farmers event. So it was, you know, the animations that we put out, or the social posts that we did specifically for Farmers for Farmers. So like I said, we saw lots of positive sentiment towards the activation across social media, and we saw a sizable increase in engagement in game. Our players, if the goal was 150 million truck orders, and our community managed to reach 165 million truck orders, which is quite great. I think compared to previous similar events, there was this like 5% increase for this event. In addition, we had a cookbook. So this was a bit outside of the activation, and specifically for the birthday celebration. We kind of compiled a lot of recipes that we found in like some recipes that we had already created, but we put together like a 4-page spread in this cookbook that talked about regenerative farming and the Farmers for Farmers event, as well as included a 2-page spread of a local farmer that works directly with the Rodale Institute, and they put in their own recipe in there, which you can still find the recipe book on Heyday's website. Additionally, I guess because of our activation and the cookbook, we managed to win, you know, a couple awards that year from the Green Game Jam, which is like UNEP's Choice and Best in Food. So yeah, thank you.
Great, Sheila. Thanks so much. What I'll do is we'll zip through, and then we'll kind of investigate the different questions that I kind of have for you guys afterwards. So let's move on to Ioannis.
Yes, thank you, Louisa. Hi, everyone. Let me present. So hopefully everyone can see it all good. So yeah, I'm the GM for Transformers Earth Wars, one of the game's own Space Aid games. So back on 2021, which I think was the first time when like Green Game Jam actually started. As a company, we're really passionate about contributing into environment. So we go straight in like let's do this. Transformers was one of our biggest games back then. So the whole company was behind this, like, let's do something like good in order to push for the message to save the planet. So for the people who don't know, our game is a build and battle. So you make a base, and usually it's about like Autobots and Decepticons fighting together or against each other. So it's not really the most peaceful game. It's not the best game to actually push the message of environmentalist. But we're trying to approach it in a way like, okay, we do have though all these characters that people are passionate about. We do have the story you can tell in this game. And the way we did it was we thought like, okay, we're gonna make a new story campaign where we're gonna have the characters drive you through, and all this messaging that all this the war and all this abusing of resources and collecting without thinking about the future is gonna have an adverse effect. It already had an adverse effect for Cybertron, which is the planet of the Transformers, and eventually it's gonna have an effect on the Earth. So we need to find a solution that's going to be something that we can, save the environment in the future. And it was kind of like a 5 battle campaign with a lot of story that people were just talking about it. And of course, we gave that to all our players, so all like I think 200,000 monthly active users at the time. So you go in and you have this messaging where both Decepticons and Autobots saying like, we need to protect this planet. Because we can't destroy it. And they found through the story that we can start using renewable forms of energy, and this is something we can they can keep using it going forward. It will not have as much as adverse effect on the environment. So the way we did it, we introduced a new building that works with the solar power, and people can collect the solar energy and they use it to enhance the production. So we introduced this building at the end of this campaign. People will gain it, will have it in the base, and even to this day, they keep like every day they go in, they charge this building, and they get a bonus to their resource output. So it's something that always they're reminding them of this story. And any new players coming in, actually, this is part of our campaign that we have going on. So everyone interacts eventually with this campaign. Let's get this building, and they're gonna be playing with it, integrating with it, and then reminding themselves about all this messaging we try to push them. The other thing we try to do, because this is all in game, we try to see like how we can actually have an impact or an action that will can affect the real world. So we did a call to action. We put it part of our newsfeed and all in our social media, where it says we partner with REN21, which is an organization that collects data about people's uses of energies or renewables in different territories, and then they give it to the government, or they can allow government to come and advise by them about how to approach renewable energy. So we push all our players to this survey that you will give information from the different locales that they are playing in. So REN21 has a better understanding, I guess, on what's happening in all these countries. So we had 10,000 of the surveys filled in, which was really useful. We also ask our players to pledge to switch some of their incandescent light bulbs to LED light bulbs, so they themselves will actually save enough energy that could reach to a lot of kilowatt hours of energy of a day. That was a bit harder to track, but we hope that some people actually did it too. So that is, I guess, what we did on Transformers.
Great, thank you so much. Let's now finally move over to Jean and Urška.
So, as you mentioned, my name is Urška, this is Jean. We will be shortly presenting what we did for last year's Green Game Jam. But first to start, just a little quick recap of who Outfit 7 actually is. So we are one of the 10 top mobile game publishers in the world currently. We have up to 470 million monthly active users across the globe. And up to this day, we've garnered over 23 billion downloads. But what we did last year, so we actually participated in the Green Game Jam with 2 of our games, the first one being My Talking Angela 2, which ended up being the big winner for us, and also one of our runners, that is Talking Tom Gold Run. And what we did for Angela is we were brainstorming a lot, trying to find an idea, what would fit, what would be fun to play, what do our users actually want to see. And in the end, based on a lot of feedback that we got from the team that was working on the project, from user reviews and comments, and at the end of the day, also just, pure subjective opinions and gut feelings, the idea of the Angela's Balcony was born. So the whole premise behind it is basically like an extension of the existing and known Tamagotchi loop, where basically users visit Angela's urban garden that she has on her balcony. There they are prompted to plant a different seed. Then by nurturing and tending to the seeds, it can grow to its full potential and blossom into a flower, which then consequently attracts more bees. And the more bees that users attract, the more successful they are and the bigger are the rewards that they get in the end. So it's very, very simple and a relatable message that we have. So like every bee counts, or rather that every small action counts, which was in the end very important for us, because usually when we want to tackle like big issues and important topics, we can get overwhelmed because we don't know like where to even start. So this is where the small actions come into place. So we wanted to extend that also to our runners. So the idea behind it was, again, very simple. Users were collecting water droplets with which they were watering the tree. By reaching different milestones, they were also unlocking like bigger and better rewards with it. So this was the whole like product idea behind the features that we developed. We are super proud, both of them. But now for the distribution part, Jean.
Yeah, thank you, Urška. So regarding distribution, the first thing I would like to say is that this was maybe not a scary project for us, but we were a bit timid at the beginning because our brand isn't really associated with these serious topics, We're known for being lighthearted and generally fun for our target audience. And we actually usually shied away from these serious topics in most of our communications. So for the distribution team and the whole team, it was actually a twofold challenge. So on the first hand, we needed to get a lot of knowledge. So the way we went about it is that we did a lot of research of what was done in previous years, what our competitors or reference games are doing, because we really wanted to, we felt a sense of responsibility towards this topic to really do it well, to not just do it because, but to do it so it can have some sort of impact for our community and for our players. And on the second part, we needed to do also a lot of homework when it comes to what kind of channels to use, where to get these messages, and how to incorporate the fun aspect of our brand to this more serious notion of helping saving the planet. So then on for distribution, we had a challenge because on one side, we wanted obviously from a business perspective to get users to play the game and also raise awareness for the cause. And as Urška mentioned, game design did most of the work here actually, because the feature itself was already lending itself to enticing our users and educating our users on the importance of, in Angela's examples, beekeeping, and in Tom's Gold Run example of saving the trees. So what we did, and the main message of the distribution creative direction, was that we basically wanted to say that every small action counts if it's made by a community of players, a community of like-minded people. So that's why we went in this whole notion of a spin on every drop counts, but saying for Angela that every bee counts. So enticing all of our users to obviously play the game, collect the bees, and make a difference that way. And in Tom, like that every tree counts. So planting trees. I can't go into the specifics of the success of the campaign, sadly, but what I can say is that our strategy team is very good in predicting the results of our campaign. So they're very versed in accurately saying what we can expect from a campaign. And this was a campaign that surprised them, which doesn't happen often here. So in terms of reach, in terms of impressions, in terms of downloads, in terms of our bottom line, this was one of our surprisingly very successful campaigns, you know. So that doesn't mean that we didn't expect a lot from it, but it even went beyond those expectations, which was a great learning from us, especially also on distribution, to say, hey, okay, yeah, we are a fun, lighthearted brand, but we can talk about more serious topics as well. And we have a community and players that respond, obviously, to the in-game features and also what we do on distribution. I want to be mindful of time, so I will stop here and maybe we can ask more questions later. But would be fun for the end to see the trailer that we made for Angela, because it would give you a more wholesome overview of what we did.
So we want to show it now?
Yeah, we can show it now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and fun.
Hey! Oh no! What's the matter? Let's grow some flowers in my brand new garden. Oh, still no flowers. Okay, plan B. Whoops! Hooray! Unbelievable! Let's start gardening. We have to take care of the flowers every day. Make them bloom and save the bees. Don't miss out on a special code to get 2,000 coins and make your garden pop. Start playing My Talking Angela too and make a difference, because every beat counts.
So, okay, so I'm gonna jump straight into, I think we only really have time for me to ask you guys a couple of questions, and then I would love to throw it open to the participants this year, because I think that would be more valuable than anything that I'm interested in. But I think what I find really interesting about this is, so for all of you guys, I think there is this element of, we have the brief of the previous years of the Green Game Jam, which is often very kind of restricted to in-game, and you guys in different ways have sort of gone that little bit of a step beyond. So for instance, Sheila and Ioannis, I'd be really interested to know, so obviously you have your main in-game activation, and then you, for instance, added the citizen science element, you added the cookbook element, and I would be, and you could essentially, what I'm saying is you could have stopped with the in-game stuff as part of the brief of the Green Game Jam. So I'm really curious to know, from a kind of from a development side, from a business side, what was it that kind of motivated you to go that one step beyond and kind of come up with something that was a little bit more out of the box and not necessarily what other teams were thinking of? Maybe Sheila, if you want to start, if you have an answer.
Yeah, so like I said, like we were already planning like a month-long birthday celebration, and the give back element or the Green Game Jam element was quite a short period. It was only like 5 days of that month.
Sure.
So we already had quite a lot of activations that were happening, and the cookbook was something that was being given at the end, and we were like, hey, while we're still creating it, when we did this thing, why not add pages towards the end? So it was more opportunistic and like a coincidence that it was just happened to be being created at that time, and so we just added it on top. And we were like, hey, if you have a farmer, like, why don't they send us a recipe and we can just like include it and, you know, have them highlighted in it in some way. And so, yeah, all I'm saying is that we just kind of added it on top because it was a coincidence that we had something and it was opportunistic for us to be able to include them in it.
But it's funny how so many things like that can come in such opportunistic ways. And Ioannis, do you guys, do you have a kind of answer?
Yeah, for us, it wasn't just about winning the Green Jam or something. It wasn't just, you know, get really good at that aspect. We kind of wanted to have an effect, like something we can measure in the real world. So we try to find like, well, what can we do in order to have some impact, some real effect, instead of just having something in the game that people interact and just call it quits. That's why like we had some people that were really involved in the whole UN action and stuff like that. So if they found Rent 21, that this is whole like, all right, let's get this survey filled. We already been giving, I think, like donating some like once Save the Planet, some of our income from that event. So we didn't want to do the same thing. We just want to see like, okay, what can we do? Let's just get this data that can be useful for this organization, and then let's push our players in, and then push them to also change light bulbs. But of course, you can't really measure that. But we just wanted to give something back.
Yeah. I think that's I think it's a really great example of something that is an in world action, but that doesn't really require much in the way of props or anything that you have to physically like equipment, I guess is the right word that I'm looking for. So yeah, I think that's a really useful example for some of our participants this year. And Jan and Urška, obviously you guys have less of a real world activation, but I hope that everybody can kind of see that one of the reasons why we chose this for you guys to come and talk to us is that last year's theme for the Green Game Jam was wildlife, but it was actually a little bit more broad, and it focused on these more kind of at-risk species in different countries around the world. And I think what's really compelling about the Outfit 7 activation for last year was that you guys chose to think about stuff that would be instantly recognizable to players everywhere. Bees are a really important element of ecosystems all over the world, not just in the target regions that we were looking at last year. So yeah, I guess I wanted to ask you guys, I think you touched on it a little bit in your presentation, but just to talk maybe a little bit more about why you chose to focus on those kinds of small actions, which are the whole theme of this year, and where that kind of came from.
I guess I will start just a little bit because I was the product manager at the time on My Talking Angela 2, and my heart was set on bees. I felt like it was a calling, it was a sign that we have to kind of design the whole narrative around it, because I think it's also connected a lot to our like Slovenian culture, where we come from. Like beekeeping is very big, it's part of our culture. So it was like a natural correlation that we saw between these two like actions and like what actually makes sense. And what also you pointed out right now is that it's important that it's relatable across the world. So it is recognizable, it is relatable, it's not super specific. And like I said before, small steps, small actions are really important because anyone can do them, right? It's not like you have to prepare and train or have the resources. It's very simple, like planting one seed and watering it. So yeah, from like our point of view.
And just to comment on the real world impact versus awareness impact, like I said, for us, last year's campaign was a small step with the bees. It was also the first step for us to do like these more socially conscious activations. So for us, the main goal last year was awareness, and this year now we can then focus also on the real world impact and other things.
Yeah. Makes total sense. Got to walk before you can run. Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. So we've got about 15 minutes left of the session, and we try to be mindful of everybody's time. So I just wondered if we had any questions from the online audience, and if not, I've got some questions that I can use to fill the time. Does anyone have any questions for us? Feel free to either unmute or type them in the chat.
Hey, hi everyone.
Go on.
Like amazing activations, really good. Like you've seen them, but you sharing it with us, like really, thanks for that. My question is around like the players' experience part of it. Like, were there any negative sentiments? This is not specific to anyone. Like anyone of you can answer, or all three of you can answer. But were there like negative sentiments among the players? Okay, why we are doing this activation? Because there are like hundreds and thousands of players, right? Like, and all of them have different perspectives. So, any like thought on that?
I guess I could say that I think when you're filtering through like socials and stuff like that, like I think you will always have like the online trolls and stuff, but I feel like the negative comments, I don't think we really saw negative comments.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's hard because it might be something directly associated with the game, like I lost my account, or I can't do this specific thing in game, which is not even related to the actual event. So sometimes players just like post their thoughts about anything about the game, on in the social media comments. But I think like majority of the comments were either positive or neutral. I think maybe one thing when we think about like when you're trying to make this accessible for all players to be able to play, I think one thing we noticed in Heyday is like the event system that we used is unlocked at a certain level. So technically, like not all players can participate unless they reach that like level. It's quite low level, but like if you're an entry level player and you heard about it for the first time on socials and you're going in to participate, you're kind of like, okay, you have to get to that certain level and unlock the event system, and then you're able to participate. So I think that's the only maybe not negative, but like barrier that some players couldn't play. But I think it served majority of the players who play Heyday.
And we were prepared for a bit of backlash, and also on the stores as well on social media, because our activation was across the funnel. So we had also store events and obviously all the upper funnel support. But yeah, surprisingly, no. I think the key is just to really make sure that it's genuine to your brand and what you're doing, because we still had Angela with the bees, which was cute, fun, but had a message. I'm guessing if we had something more forced, we would be experiencing more like users being more cynical about our participation in something like this.
I mean, because we kept it in line with what our audience, I guess, to some extent is used to, what is known to them, and like what they were actually expecting.
Yeah.
So like certain knowledge of your audience is crucial here when, designing this type of features, so that, like you mentioned, it comes off sincere and genuine, that it's not forced and, fake. Yeah.
Last for us, I guess, I mean, we have one of the more engaged communities out of all the other games. I think here, if we do something they don't like, they're gonna tell us about it. But we didn't really hear any problems. I think the main thing was kind of like, oh, we have this extra building and it gives an advantage to the people that are attacking us. And they just go into that kind of level, like what is useful for us. But overall, the biggest part of the community was really happy and they didn't really have any objections with it.
That's great, thank you. And just to plug our kind of earlier talks again, if you are interested in thinking more about how your audience, how to kind of find a message that your audience is going to respond to and that kind of sits within your brand and your game and your theme, I really recommend Arnaud's workshop from the start of this if you haven't already seen it. Kenneth, you've got your hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
Oh, damn. I unmuted it when I was talking, sorry. Thank you so much for your activations. I guess I have a question. You kind of just spoke to the external adversity from the player base, but was there internal adversity from like superiors and colleagues about getting on with the Green Game Jam and doing the activation? I mean, like, some of y'all said like everybody was really on board. Were there cases where people were not on board when y'all were doing the Green Jam activation in your jobs?
I can luckily say no. Like everyone was on board. I mean, we knew that we were going to participate before we even knew what the feature is going to be, obviously. And I think like the brainstorming session that I mentioned before, when we were exploring these different ideas, really like the whole team spirit really shined through, because in the end, when we ended up on this idea, the balcony and the gardening and the bees and like everything came together, you could also feel the team being super excited, super involved. Like everyone was eager to give like their suggestions, their opinions. Like it was very good to see that, everyone was super invested in it.
Yeah.
So luckily we didn't have like any negative experience with this participation.
Yeah, I also wouldn't say negative, but like I mentioned, especially on distribution, we were mindful and kept challenging each other to really make sure that what we're saying now and participating is genuine and it makes sense,
From our side too, like we kind of decided we wanted to join as a team, and we weren't even in the biggest, we didn't have the biggest team size at the point, and people from the studio were like, I'm gonna come and join you guys to help do this because I'm really passionate about it. So everyone had the passion to do it. No one really was against it, for sure, from our side.
I can echo a bit on what my colleagues have said here. For us, for Heyday, I think I was kind of presented with the idea first from like the give back team, and when me and my other one of my colleagues who was helping me with marketing, she was leading marketing for Heyday. We kind of sat down and we were like, we can just come up with this and just make sure that like it fits with the system, so that like the game team doesn't necessarily have to create anything new from it. And when we presented it and it made sense, and I think the guys from Outfit 7 had said like, you have to find that it fits your game, and that's what we did. Like, we can't just go and, I don't know, do something completely outside of what our community is already experiencing in game. So if we did something on trees or farming, it just makes sense for our game. And so presenting it to the game team to help us, implement certain things within this event system just was easy, because they were like, oh yeah, this makes sense, obviously, so let's do it. Yeah.
Fantastic, thanks guys. Kay, you got your hand up? We've got, I think we probably have time for one more, given that we've got three sets of participants talking. So go ahead, Kay.
Cool, super, thank you. Really love your sharing, especially the little bee YouTube video as well. I thought that was really cute and really easy to understand for kids to come on board. On that though, did you guys do, or any of you do, any kind of like extra social media push? Like, were you like buying extra ads or anything, or working with any influencers to share the message, etc.? That kind of stuff. Just any kind of tips around social media push?
From our side, no. I think we just we didn't do any influencer activation. We did do it for the birthday on a separate time, like on a separate different days it happened, but they didn't push this Green Game Jam activation. I think we just posted the certain illustrations just to remind people that it's still going on, teach about, share information about regenerative farming for the awareness element. And yeah, so just the usual social posts every other day or every day, I believe. Yeah.
From our side, we weren't doing any UA at that point anyway, but we of course put it in all our social media channels from the game. We did a big push for Google and Apple that we are participating in this campaign. We got some featuring, I think, from both the platforms. Like, I think we were highlighted by Apple in the store for this thing. So we try to reach from that side to actually, this is a message for the planet and everyone else aware about it.
Yeah, on our side as well, we didn't have influencers. We like I said, we had across the funnel, so we had UA, we had everything. Maybe just what we were again mindful of is that we used each channel very differently. So the message of the bees on the TikTok was very different than what we were doing on Instagram and some other channels, But I guess that's already part of your system, because we really try to differentiate the creatives to make sure they fit each channel. So the trailer you saw was very cutesy and like by the book showing, whereas TikTok, as you can imagine, was very chaotic and catering to that specific type of channel.
Awesome, thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, thanks, guys. So as we do have 3 minutes left, what I will do, and I hope this is useful and not too putting you guys on the spot, but could I ask each of the participants to just, if we just go around and just say maybe one main thing you guys kind of took away from participating in the Green Game Jam, either on a professional, personal level, or on a kind of company-wide level. That would be great.
I think for what I noticed was how perceptive the community is to events like this. Like, I think we were also quite, when you do talk about like real world issues, you have to kind of tread a bit lightly with how you communicate that in game and stuff like that. And we did proceed with caution, but we've noticed like people are really into doing something or learning something, and whether or not they, for us, we didn't really put any real world, element into it, except obviously like this cookbook thing. We didn't ask our players to do anything except for like learn about regenerative farming. So whether they go out and they start buying from, organic farms or farmers markets and stuff like that. We hope that's, what they did, or maybe start growing their own, food. But I think it was something that the community is open to it. They just don't have, maybe they never realize that they can connect gaming to stuff that they might be, interested in. So
amazing, thank you.
I think from my side, like, just, make you think, so like, how can you, give a messaging that's positive, and try to integrate some of these solutions in the game that maybe not even fitting, but can always find a space in order to, have some stuff that, can be useful for the world and the players, in order to know and give some messaging, and in a way to do it without, throwing down into their throats or something, but still like, I'm kind of like, guys, this is important for all of us, let's get together. And it's nice to see the return that, even for us, like, we were worried, like, what will our players think if we, try to do kind of political messaging, or what people would consider as political messaging, but we didn't have any of that. Like, all the players understood why we're doing this, the importance of this, and they all, got along with it. And getting all these learnings as an individual too, about how we can, better treat the environment, was really useful, I think.
I would say that what we mentioned before briefly already is that it's not mutually exclusive having like a fun gaming experience, like addressing serious topics, that you can actually, find an overlap, find a creative way to convey that message. Like we said, you mentioned we are more of a light-hearted type of, company. So this is a bit of a challenge to address, but I think we did it in a good way. And I think this is something that we can continue to incorporate when we are designing new features or new games and stuff like that. So it's definitely not a one-time thing. No.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. That brings us to the end of our time. I would have loved to, keep talking about this forever, but we've all got jobs to go to, famously. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. That is the last session in our design workshops. I think the next time we'll hear from you is we have some different Earth Week celebrations happening in cities next week. So do check our spreadsheet, which I'll share again in the Slack channel, for anything that's happening near you. And then after that, we'll be checking in with you all for World Environment Day, which is on the 5th of June, and that's more likely to be a little individual meeting with your teams rather than a sort of Zoom call or a workshop. So thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.